this committee. We'll quickly go around and just do a quick introduction. Miles?
Miles Larrington, Governance Services Officer.
Lisa Martin, Councillor for Round Haywood in Leeds.
Simon Langdale, Private Sector Member.
Alex Rushshaw, Portfolio Holder for Regeneration Planning and Transport and Bedford Council.
Mandy Rijard, Let Board Member and Private Sector Member here.
Phil Wycherley, West Yorkshire Combined Authority.
Sarah Bowers, West Yorkshire Combined Authority.
Louise Allen, West Yorkshire Combined Authority.
Mitchell McKeown, West Yorkshire Combined Authority.
Lon Holroyd, West Yorkshire Combined Authority.
Joshua Kazin, West Yorkshire Combined Authority.
Joe Barham, West Yorkshire Combined Authority.
Tom Purvis, West Yorkshire Combined Authority.
Farah Butt, Private Sector Member.
Alan Williams, Private Sector Representative.
Caroline Allen, West Yorkshire Combined Authority, Deputy Director, Legal Governance and Compliance.
Okay, thank you very much. We'll go on to the... Oh, sorry, Felix. The main man. The main man.
I'm Felix Kumiampof. I'm the new Director for Inclusive Economy, Skills and Culture.
Anyway, welcome Felix, and my apologies. I'm talking to get on. Apologies for absence. We've got Sue Cook, who's going to be a few minutes late, but we've got a list of the members who are given the apologies, Miles.
Yes, Chair. Apologies for absence have been received from Dr Peter O'Brien, Councillor Sarah Courtney, Councillor Eric Firth, Jackie Gedman, Deb Hetherington, Asma Iqbal, Councillor Deb Nichols, Councillor Peter Kilbane, Carl Oxford, Richard Paxman, Paul Price, Palvinder Singh, Dr Martin Stowe, Bobby Thandy, Lee Viney and Neville Young.
Okay, thank you, but we are chorused. I've been told that. Yeah, okay, thank you very much. Okay, item 2, declaration of disclosable procurement interest. If there are any, please can you make sure that you let Miles know during and after the meeting. And if you are going to speak on any item, please let me know any interest that you have if you do speak on any item. Item 3, exempt information, possible exclusion of the press and public. I believe there isn't any exempt papers on the board today, so that's good, so we don't need to go into private session. Item 4, minutes of meeting held on the 29th of March. Are they a correct record? I take that yes, thank you very much. Okay, we move on to okay, a quick update for myself. LEP changes, you probably are aware of this, so my apologies if I'm telling you anything that you already know. But Matt Roberts, who was the interim LEP chair, he stood down, and the Combined Authority is currently looking for a replacement chair who will also act as the Mayor's business advisor. There's also plans for the Mayor's Business Council, which will bring together a range of businesses together. And as the 5 leaders, we're very keen to ensure we maximise the voice of business to make sure that we actually represent West Yorkshire, not just in West Yorkshire, but beyond West Yorkshire as well, and internationally as well. There's also some changes to the directors, and on my left, we've got Felix Kumi and Pofo, who I completely overlooked when I was going round. He's a new director of Inclusive Economy, and this is your 3rd day, Felix. You want to say a few words?
If I have to, well, I don't have to. Thank you very much, Chair, and thank you. It's, as the Chair said, it's only my 3rd day here. It's bedding in slowly, but the team has been fantastic, so I have high expectations of what we can do. We've been through the papers, had a chat with the chair prior to this, and it's a fantastic agenda, great work that's been done already. Hopefully we can do a lot more. So thank you very much. Look forward to the time we've got ahead.
Thanks very much. And this is your last meeting of this committee, and you are also going on to pastures new. So once again, thank you very much for all your hard work, and I've really enjoyed working with you over the last however many months you've been acting up. And I wish you all the best in your future ventures. If you want to say a few words, you're more than welcome to.
Thank you, Chair. It's been a pleasure serving as the lead director for this committee. I know that this committee hasn't had a great turnout today, and I think that's mainly because it's during the school holidays. It's been the committee of the three committees I was lead director for that's had the most private sector engagement. And I think during the period, whilst I've been acting director, but also whilst I've been head of service working for this committee, we've done in the last 2 years lots of really, really great things around developing the economic strategy, developing some of the business programmes, looking at things, new innovative things like Northern Gritstone, the manufacturing task force. So it's a really, really good platform. And in Felix, you've got a fantastic director with a great track record. And I'm sure we'll go from strength to strength. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Phil. And once again, we wish you all the best in your future endeavours. Mandy, do you want to say a few words?
Yeah, I think it's really important to thank Phil for the work he's done in really making sure that the voice of business is being heard by the committee, and it's great to see the work that's been done with the manufacturing task force. Thank you for your support of Space Hub Yorkshire, but also the individual things you've done to try and change things up a bit, workshops and stuff. And I'm sure I speak for all the private sector members just by saying that we really look forward to working with you too, Felix.
Okay, item 6, governance arrangements. This is a general governance update for information, and it provides an overview of the governance arrangements for this committee, approved by the Combined Authority on the 22nd of June, including its terms of reference, quorum, membership and meeting dates. I was also reappointed as chair of the committee, so I'm really delighted that I'm here again. And the deputy chair already held a LEP board member, but that's currently vacant, so we will fill that in ASAP. We are actually undergoing a recruitment process for LEP board members, and we hope that one or more appointments will be made onto this committee, and the deputy chair will be formally be appointed. So if you want to add anything, Caroline, please do so.
Thank you, Chair. I think you've covered that very succinctly. I'm here if there are any questions about the contents of the paper or the governance arrangements more widely, but hopefully most of that is self-explanatory. Thank you.
So this item is to know, and any feedback on any governance arrangements going forward. So any comments or questions? No, thank you very much. Economic update. As you know, inflation is proving to be a lot more challenging than what was initially forecasted for the UK, and it's got an impact on the West Yorkshire economy as it has a wider field. Interest rates are still going up to try and make sure that we control the economy, but things aren't quite shaping out. And this has been the quickest rate increase in decades. That's putting pressure on household budgets. We all feel it, and I have constituents who actually feel it on a daily basis. Mortgages and renters alike. Mortgages are just going through the roof. Interest rates, rents also going through the roof, and we're hoping for sharper green shoots and bigger green shoots to come out, and basically have a upturn in the economy. But what I'll do is I'll pass on to Tom, who'll take us through the papers. And help us understand the macroeconomic situation and how it feels in West Yorkshire, and what impact that's got on this committee. So, Tom, over to you.
Thank you, Chair. So interest rates increased from 4.5% to 5%. It's obviously people will be aware that they were around 0% for much of the last kind of 13 years or so. Market expectations have tempered slightly over the last few days, but they're still expecting further rate increases up to around 6%, depending on how sticky inflation is. And as the chair said, we're seeing this feeding directly into household budgets. The rent prices across West Yorkshire increased by close to £100 from March 2022 to 2023. The average mortgage in West Yorkshire has or will go up by around £150 per month when people sort of come off their fixed rates and try to remortgage. But then on the business side, we're also starting to see some of the challenges feeding through there, and it's likely that will hit business investment, which we know is already a problem within West Yorkshire and the wider economy. We don't invest as much as we should. in terms of what the Bank of England is kind of predicting or forecasting, they're expecting food and service sector inflation to remain stickier and more increased at a rate that they didn't think would be the case going back kind of 12 months or so. Inflation by the end of this year is expected to still be around kind of 5%, which is over double where the Bank of England want it to be. Now, some of the things that have fed into inflation coming down, albeit not coming down as sharply as everyone would like, is we've had the energy price cap. That's now beneath the energy price guarantee, which is £2,500. The price cap is just shy of £2,100. So that's obviously a welcome reprieve for families, but it's worth pointing out that in 2021, the cap was around £1,200. So it's still a large increase. And on the business side, there'll be businesses out there that have locked in sort of futures contracts at rates that are far higher than where wholesale gas and electricity prices currently are. So we're not out of the woods yet on energy. In terms of overall inflation, so within the paper on 2.4, you'll see I had inflation there at 8.7% in the 12 months to May. We've now had updated figures, so CPI is now at 7.9%, and core inflation has actually fallen slightly from 7.1 to 6.9%. That's still far higher than central banks want it to be. So it wouldn't surprise me if we do see a few more interest rate rises, albeit the votes might get slightly closer on that. What we are seeing is, well, the food inflation problem still persists. Food prices are going up around 18%, but for particular foods, so for instance, white sugar and olive oil, they're going up by roughly 50% year on year. And there's a whole host of reasons for particular goods going up at far quicker rates. In terms of what interest rates are doing to businesses trying to raise money, what we're seeing is that SMEs are paying over 6% for new finance. It's to be expected to an extent that SMEs pay more than larger businesses, but that divergence is getting wider now than it has been previously. So we're seeing SMEs paying around 6.15% versus 5.8% across kind of all business sizes. And what we've seen is lending or finance for SMEs actually declining versus for larger businesses it's going up. So what we're taking from that is that it could be one of two things: either demand for finance is falling as businesses are consolidating a bit, and or finance providers are becoming a bit more conservative with who they lend to. We don't have enough data at this point to unpick that. In terms of what's going on in West Yorkshire, there's probably, there's a few messages, some which you'll have heard before. On the labour market side, we're getting a lot of people into work still, and that's a good thing. Employee numbers are continuing to increase and increased between April and May, albeit at a relatively slow rate. We've seen an increase of about 3,500 employees across West Yorkshire between January and May, but not every district has been experiencing this. So, for instance, since January, Calderdale hasn't seen employment growth. Likewise, from April to May, Kirklees and Wakefield experienced small drops. So it's not a uniform sort of positive news story, if you like, or green shoot across the entirety of West Yorkshire, but it is good that we are getting people into work. The out-of-work claimant count, on the flip side, increased to 4.8% in May compared with 3.8% in England. So you might be asking, how does employment go up, but also out-of-work claimants go up? What is likely to be happening, albeit we don't have the data yet, is there'll have been people that left the labour market and are now having to re-enter the labour market because of cost of living increases, or that they might have been, say, for instance, caring for someone, but that might have changed, so now they can go back into the workforce. So we're trying to understand this inactivity to active and the flip side to that in a bit more detail, but data on that is scarce currently. In terms of job postings, job postings in West Yorkshire have fallen for 3 consecutive months, but vacancy rates are still a bigger problem here than they are across the country as a whole. So in April 2023, there were around 30,000 new job postings, which was 12% lower than March, but 7% higher than April last year. And the biggest reductions were for jobs relating to IT, business management, and healthcare. Job postings related to manufacturing and production, however, experienced a small increase month on month. So we might start to be seeing some of the manufacturing sector actually picking up a bit more as those energy costs have come down for businesses that have been able to negotiate better prices. In terms of business registrations and liquidations, we're still seeing a net increase in businesses, which is good news. And registrations were particularly strong in Bradford and Kirklees, and this was in May. And the figures in May are the strongest they've been throughout 2023, so that's good news. What we are seeing, however, is a sectoral split. So accommodation and food services are both overrepresented in registrations and liquidations. So that's probably the phenomenon of a lot of businesses in this sector work on very low margins. So you're probably seeing quite a few of those companies, unfortunately, going under due to everything that's going on. But you're seeing people want to go into that sector because they're spotting new opportunities, for instance. And then a final thing from me, we work with the ONS on getting access to more sub-regional data. It's something that we've been working on for quite a while, and it's a constant kind of bugbear of please provide it to us in a more timely manner. But we've recently got access to sub-regional productivity figures for 2021. So between 2016 and 2021, GVA per hour worked, which is a measure of productivity, increased by 14.3% across the country versus 14.2% in West Yorkshire. However, what you'll see from the table below is that there are very, very stark differences in West Yorkshire. So, for instance, productivity in Wakefield went up by 23.4% across those years versus 8% in Leeds. We don't know, we don't have a specific reason why this is the case. Some of it will be catch-up effects, some of it might be COVID effects, which we're not able to unpick currently, but the differences are very stark. And if we want West Yorkshire to be firing on all cylinders, it's important that we're able to get productivity up in every corner or every point within West Yorkshire. So thank you, Chair. I'll pass back to you.
Thank you very much, Tom, for that comprehensive update. Any questions or comments? Lisa?
Thank you very much, Chair. Just on that last point, obviously, I'm interested in it would be helpful to know what the baseline was. So is it that Leeds was starting at a much higher level than these others, and therefore it's understandable why it's only at 8%? Thank you.
Thank you. So there is an aspect of Leeds was quite far ahead of the pack, so there will be sort of a catching up effect that will have happened. I think one of the concerns is that if you compare other areas where they have kind of one sort of central city that a lot of people focus on and a lot of business activity is focused on, that same effect isn't sort of mirrored from Leeds to other areas. So there will be a catch-up effect going on, but there'll almost certainly be other effects that are contributing to Leeds growing at a slower rate than we would all like. That's okay. Yeah, that's okay.
Thank you, Tom. Harry?
Yeah, just a comment really that following on from the Manufacturing Task Force comment on increasing productivity in the region, that there is now a programme called the Productivity Improvement Programme, which is now in place, and so manufacturers should really try and access that, and it's really up to us to try and spread that message as far and wide as possible, because it should really drive that productivity in that sector anyway.
Yeah, thank you. And there's always, I think people will generally be aware, especially if they've listened to me the last 12 months or so, that productivity is this. People are focused on the cost of living problem, and rightly so. If we're able to crack productivity, we'll be able to fix quite a lot of the other problems we face as an economy. Part of the reason why the UK has struggled particularly badly with the cost of living crisis is because wage increases haven't been as high as they have been in other areas. Savings rates haven't been as high as they are in other countries. Savings rates aren't as high as they are in other countries, in part because we don't have those wage increases that have got us there. So if we're able to crack productivity, and I'll have to take a look at the Productivity Improvement Programme, as well as all the other programmes that have been going on, whether it be from central government or devolved government, if we're able to crack that issue, we'll be able to fix, or at least make it easier when the next crisis comes, when whatever that may be or look like.
Thank you, Tom. Any more questions, Mandy?
Hi, Tom. Have you looked at the makeup of businesses in those sub-region areas? Because obviously when you're looking at GVA, the makeup of the costs of those businesses will be very different if we're looking at a digital business compared to a manufacturing business, and that can be very transformative in terms of productivity figures.
So we have done bits and pieces of that. Equally, we've looked at things like skill levels, whether it be via qualification levels or kind of self-reported, and there will be aspects of these things that are present. Fundamentally, though, the UK as a whole, not just West Yorkshire, has a productivity problem, and within West Yorkshire, we suffer that at the sharp end, unfortunately. So there are a lot of different things going on, whether it be around better transport infrastructure would be very helpful. As you say, the sectoral makeup and attracting businesses that are in sort of high productivity sectors will also be part of it. But there is also, as well as getting the sector right, there are also businesses that sort of, if you compare a business here to a business in, say, Germany or France or the US or Canada, that same business, basically in the same sector with the same number of employees and what have you, will be less productive here than it is elsewhere. So that's why this is ultimately why we've got things like the Manufacturing Task Force, as well as all of the different kind of policy and research areas on productivity, because it's unfortunately a UK-wide problem that we're at the sharp end of.
Thank you. Any more questions? No? Okay, we'll move on to the next item on the agenda, which is Economic Strategy and Equality, Diversity and Inclusion Plan. As you know, work is ongoing on the development of the Economic Strategy, and following the launch of the West Yorkshire Plan in June, a fantastic event that took place in Leeds. The strategy will have a focus on delivering one mission of the plan, a prosperous West Yorkshire, an inclusive economy and well-paid jobs. You'll also recall that at the March meeting, members endorsed the development of the EDI strategy to ensure our businesses support products and services that meet the needs of diverse business founders from across West Yorkshire. This followed the Combined Authorities commissioning of the North Star report from African Caribbean Business Ventures, looking at the barriers faced by Black and African and Black Caribbean business founders in accessing support. To elevate the importance of this agenda, the EDI strategy will now be embedded within the economic strategy, and that's the right thing to do. It needs to be hand in glove and needs to be seamless in terms of how we deliver it. So can I pass on to Joe Barham, who will take members through the plans for the economic strategy, and then Lorna will come in and update us on the EDI strategy proposals, and then members will hopefully have time for input. So, Joe, over to you.
Thank you, Chair. I'm going to say a few words about the strategic context for this and what we're doing on the evidence base, and then pass to Josh and Lorna to talk a bit more about the EDI implications linking back to the discussions of the last committee. So, as Councillor Pandorf said, since the group last met, we've had the publication of the West Yorkshire Plan. So that was launched by mayors and the political leaders at an event in Leeds in June. So it's great now that we've got that framework and that vision to 2040, we've got that ambition for West Yorkshire set out. I think it's really important for us to have that as a region, particularly when we're talking to stakeholders, government in particular, to be clear about who we are, what we want to achieve, and our aims and ambitions. So the next stage of that work then is to build on that framework of the West Yorkshire Plan. And so that's why we're developing this economic strategy, to set out how we're going to achieve those missions and those ambitions, and how that will guide our investments as an organisation on behalf of the region. So we do have a suite of existing policies and strategies that will feed into this, and part of the work is reviewing those existing strategies, understanding what's worked well in the past, what lessons we can learn, and what we want to bring into the new economic strategy. In addition to reviewing existing policies and strategies, there's a lot of work going on around the data, so building on many of the points that Tom raised around productivity, digging down into those figures more and understanding the issues there. So we're refreshing our economic assessment that we did in 2019, where there's new data available, some of the census data, for example, to feed into that. But I think many of those sort of structural challenges do still remain, particularly around productivity that we talked about at the last in the last item. We've got a recommission of our regional economic model. The REMS will be able to bring some forecasts into this work to understand some of the potential scenarios for the economy. We mentioned at the last committee that we're going to be commissioning an inward investment strategy to get some specialist expertise on that area. So the last inward investment strategy we had was done in 2014, so pre-Brexit, pre-COVID, so obviously a lot of changes there. So that will align with the ambition and missions, but we will bring in sort of external consultants to provide some of the specialist expertise on that element. We have got a platform from Data City to look at different sectors of the economy, particularly sort of tech-enabled ones that don't come out necessarily as clearly in traditional SIT code analysis, so to be able to understand some of those new sort of frontier companies, where they are in West Yorkshire, where there are opportunities to attract more of those types of companies, what are the clusters and the links of those companies where they're based. We're working with West Yorkshire universities as a network called YPERN that members of the committee might have heard of previously. They've got some funding specifically to work with policymakers to help embed the academic evidence base into the policy-making process. We've got a West Yorkshire fellow that we're working with on the strategy, and we've picked out 3 themes in particular where we think they'll play an important role in this work, but where we feel we could really benefit from some of the academic expertise. So those themes are childcare, the implications that has on our economy from the perspective of economic inactivity as a barrier to people entering the workforce, but also from the perspective of early years and child development, the impact that it has, and as a sector in itself, as a business, and the challenges that the sector is facing. We're looking at the informal economy. Part of this is, we want to build an inclusive economy, so I think it's important to try to understand the full aspect of what's happening in West Yorkshire and where there might be a role, and what we could do in some of that area. And part of this is about that there's not obviously a lot of data about the informal economy, by its nature. So it's just trying to understand what's out there, what might our role be, but to make sure we are being inclusive in our approach. The final theme that the YPERN network's looking at is the future of work and AI and the implications this has for West Yorkshire. And we were reflecting on the huge opportunities of AI, the challenges, but also kind of where we are as a region in some of that basic digital skills and sort of the gap between the AI opportunities and even just getting some basic digital skills into certain parts of our economy. So we had a really interesting roundtable discussion yesterday with local authority colleagues and academics. So that's going to provide a framework for sort of further research to happen. And I think we've already identified a few quick wins and opportunities we can build on, but I think it would be useful to share the note of that discussion with committee members for further reflections on different opportunities. One final thing to mention in terms of the evidence is we're also really considering the role of health as part of this strategy, the impact it has on the economy, the impact that the economy has on people's health. This reflects Combined Authority's role in closer engagement with the Integrated Care Board, part of the NHS, joining up with them. And we're bringing together a scientific advisory group led by the Bradford Institute for Health Research to bring together some of the economists and those health experts to really unpick some of these issues and the synergies between those areas. And those themes that we talked about working with YPERN on will feed into that group as well. So there's quite a lot going on in terms of evidence. So alongside that, we are consulting widely with local authority colleagues, business groups, universities. We held a workshop in June with members of this committee and business representative bodies to talk about the future of business support in the context of devolution and our ambitions around EDI, and what our new flexibilities and freedoms mean for sectoral support, size of business support, and the different sort of challenges and opportunities we have there. So that was a really helpful workshop. The notes of that have been circulated as part of the reading for this committee, and there's a number of actions that people will see in that note that we are continuing to work on and build on, particularly around the EDI evidence base, monitoring and data, and also that clarity around partnership and ways of working and further engagement. We've talked about EDI, and so to ensure that the EDI ambitions are fully embedded within this work, we've taken the decision to incorporate the proposed EDI strategy that was discussed at the last committee into the economic strategy to really elevate the importance of the agenda and make sure that we're linking up the strategy with the delivery. So I'll pass over to Josh and Lorna at this point to talk through the work that's going on about to embed that more closely.
Thanks, Jo. Yeah, as was pointed out by Councillor Pandur earlier, at the previous committee meeting, I outlined some of the research and data that's going to inform the development of our EDI strategy, which includes obviously the North Star report and the recommendations set out within it. And the intention is still to use these recommendations and the data we discussed last time as well to inform the EDI strategy in its new status as part of the economic strategy. As has been mentioned, I think this is a really big opportunity to kind of make sure that the strategic importance of EDI is felt and is firmly part of that economic strategy. It's a chance to ensure that specific actions reach across all areas of the West Yorkshire economy and to better support our diverse communities around the region as well. So in many ways, the economic strategy is the kind of perfect vehicle to ensure that EDI is a visible and key priority and lever for us to boost the economy. There's also some implications, positive implications and opportunities for kind of effective consultation through embedding the EDI strategy within the economic strategy. So there's a big opportunity to kind of reduce stakeholder confusion or fatigue by effectively combining consultation activity on these pieces of work. And I think the economic strategy provides a really solid framework for effective consultation on this subject as well. I'm going to pass you over to Lorna now, who's going to take you through some of the plans for consultation on this subject over the coming months.
Thank you, Josh. So the next step for us is really to undertake engagement with stakeholders from across the region to gather their input onto the proposed economic strategy and the EDI strategy as part of that. And we really want to ensure that we're engaging with a diverse range of stakeholders, representative of the diversity of the region that we serve, and we'd really welcome your input and suggestions on who we should consult with as part of that. We've been working with our internal consultation team to develop a proposed survey which will be shared via the Your Voice platform, which is, you may have seen other surveys from the Combined Authority use that platform as well, so we'll share that link with you when it goes live, and we want to, like I said, want to get it out to as many people as possible. We'd also like to run some focus groups so we can get more detailed input into the proposals, and again make sure that we hear from diverse voices across the region. So again, any suggestions, please do let us know. Committee members should have received an invite to a workshop on the 5th of September about the digital blueprint, and we're proposing utilising that session to also gather members' more detailed views on the proposed strategy, if members think that's a good idea, and we'd welcome your thoughts on this proposed approach. Just to flag as well, one of the challenges that we've had is around data and the lack of business data in relation to the kind of diversity of individuals that are running businesses in our region. And Tom's been doing some work from the census results. There's a question in there that asks whether people are self-employed, whether they run their own business, whether they have employees. And only last week were those results published where you could layer that with diversity information. So we will be looking at that and can share that with members to give us a more up-to-date, it's still imperfect, but it gives us a more recent picture of the diversity of business founders in our region. Question?
Thank you, Eric. Ma'am, sorry. Do you want to come in? No, sorry. Okay, thank you very much. James, you walked in, so I'm assuming that you've come for this item, or are you here for another item?
Fair work chat.
Oh, fair work chat. Right, okay. I'm glad that it's still going on. Right, okay. Any questions or comments from members? Got Lisa and then Mandy.
Sorry, I missed that date in September that you mentioned. Could you repeat it?
The 5th of September.
Can we make sure we look at access to finance as part of this, because one of the biggest barriers I think for diversity is access to finance, and within the region we have expertise in finance. Within Space of Yorkshire we've got a green space proposal going on looking at space technology to make green finance more available. Combining those two things together and owning it in West Yorkshire would be an economic opportunity as well as one that might help businesses and people within the region.
Yeah, that's absolutely one of the things we're looking at. I think it would be really useful to have a kind of follow-up discussion with you on our proposals for that to get input. But it's very much a part of the plans, and particularly on that EDI and in particular groups where there's barriers. So yeah, would welcome a conversation there.
Yeah, Bunty, it's also worth saying that kind of in the development of this, we've worked really, really closely with some of the retail banks, Lloyds NatWest in particular. So I think that's an important part of this, as well as pushing our own kind of equity funds we're developing and own access to finance for diverse business owners.
Thank you, Sue.
Thank you. Joe, it was really good to hear about YPERN being plugged in to bring in some of the academic expertise into this piece of work. So I just wanted to also highlight some bilateral conversations that have been going on with the University of Huddersfield academics, led by Liz Hunter, and particularly around that health theme. We've got Professor Phil Brown leading on health and housing, which seemed to chime in with a lot of the priorities, and also Professor Alex Nikitas, who's an expert in future mobility and sustainable transport. So I think those two connections, if they've not already sort of been made internally, might be quite helpful for you. Thanks.
Do you want to come back, or you just made a note of that?
Just so, yeah, thank you, noted, and we'll make sure
Okay,
that
no
we'll
problem.
follow up and join.
Alan and then Mandy.
Yes, thanks. It was interesting to hear the focus on AI and also digital. What impact do we expect that to have on jobs and productivity in particular, based on the discussion we were having earlier on productivity, particularly given the tight labour market we have at the moment?
Yeah, I think it's a huge theme, and the workshop Lorna mentioned is on the digital blueprint, which is work going on alongside that with AI as a sort of major theme on that. And I think, yeah, it's really trying to get those balance about opportunities, challenges, and sort of really unpicking that and what it means for the region. So I think absolutely that's going to be something that, you know, we really need to grapple with as one of the sort of the key themes across this and other supporting strategies as well.
Mandy.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think, as I say, so we had the roundtable that we're going to get a note from, so we're going to kind of go through that thematically and pick out some of the opportunities. And I think once we've done that, another step is what else? Where are the other gaps as well? And I think, you know, we do have things, you know, existing that we can pull into that. And I think, you know, alongside what YPERN's doing, we're also doing a lot of work considering the literature and the evidence and other sources, not just sort of the academic things, but that certainly could be something we could look into further research.
Yeah, absolutely. I can't remember. Yeah, I can't remember the name of the report. I think it's the Business Without Barriers report through FSB, and talks a lot about barriers to growth, essentially for disabled business owners, and how people with disabilities are maybe more likely to set up a business, but then experience barriers within growing that business. So yeah.
Especially neurodiversity within that.
Yeah.
That can be a huge sort of push for innovation. It's something that's often very difficult to get funding for.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's definitely on our radar.
Okay, thank you very much. We've got Farah.
Yeah, I just want to flag up the Made Smarter programme. That sort of really is there for digital transformation. I just want to actually ask whether there's anything that might come under that, because the the Made Smarter does expect a certain level of digital readiness. So I think there's a little bit of a gap there that needs to be addressed, particularly for EDI businesses that might be a little bit further behind in that area anyway.
Yeah, that's exact issue is certainly something that's come up in our discussions around the sort of actual basic layer of digital skills and things. I think that's, yeah, again, something that is feeding into this, absolutely.
Okay, thank you very much. Any more questions or comments from members? I can't see anybody. Okay, item 9, investment zones. You're probably aware that in spring the Chancellor announced investment zones. These are £80 million zones that are designed to increase rates of innovation, supporting the levelling up agenda and increase international inward investment into regions. Since the announcement, the Combined Authority has been working in partnership with local authorities, the universities around West Yorkshire, and other groups have developed proposals. The two areas we're focusing on is health and care and digital. That is something that we need to really sort of like make sure we level up. So what I will do is I'll ask Mitchell Macomb, is it? Will take the committee through the paper. So Mitchell, over to you.
Yep, thank you. So I'm going to kind of give my update in kind of three parts, given that Investment Zones is working at considerable pace. So I'll quickly cover what they are, what we're doing so far, and the progress we've made, and then the next steps. So as Councillor Pandor said there, Investment Zones are really kind of looking at supporting the levelling up ambitions and the levelling up white paper, increasing rates of innovation in areas that have low public and private sector R&D investment, and innovation rates in general, and also looking at attracting inward investment into certain sectors or clusters. Every place that's been selected for an investment zone will receive £80 million that will be delivered over 5 years. So 2024 to 2029 is the timescales, and they can focus on 5 sectors that are outlined in the investment zone prospectus, and I think I've put them in the report as well. And essentially there are 3 things that you can do with an investment zone. You can have tax sites, so you can have up to 3 200-hectare tax sites, and essentially what that means is you turn the taps on tax incentives, so a business in that tax site, for instance, could not have to pay employer national insurance contributions or stamp duty, for example. There is also business rate retention sites, and an area can have up to 2 of them. So that's 100% relief from business rates on newly occupied business premises over 25 years. And the third one is flexible spend. So this is capital and revenue proposals. So any kind of innovation centres, business support programmes, research and innovation, and skills. And that's split between 40 and 60%. So 40% of the £80 million can be spent on revenue. The other 60% is on capital. Since we've met with the Department for Levelling Up Housing and Communities a few months ago, we've been progressing our proposal, and the first task was essentially to pick the sector and the geography that we focus on. So our proposal kind of recognised that we've got a lot of strengths in the region. We've got a lot of research kind of expertise in health tech, life sciences, and kind of the wider tech sector. So the proposal focuses on amplifying the opportunities around the health tech cluster, and then the wider tech sector for opportunities around creative tech and green finance, focusing on critical technologies, again, like artificial intelligence and software, and then also unlocking some skills barriers that businesses may face. About a month ago, we passed that sector gateway, so that's all been approved by the Department for Levelling Up, and we had one of the best submissions with the other mayoral combined authorities, so that was really good to see, and great work between local authorities, universities and the combined authority. And now we're essentially looking at what we're going to do with the £80 million and the governance of that. So we've currently got a gateway that's taking place now to see how we'll deliver the investment zone, and then the next part is the interventions. And in 2.15, I've given kind of an overview of the things that we're probably going to look at doing with this money, and kind of focus on things like equity finance or access to finance that Mandy talked about there, looking at accelerator or incubator programs, inward investment pots to focus on some of the capital sites that will be focused in the bid. So that would focus largely on the National Health Innovation Campus proposals in Huddersfield, the Leeds Teaching Hospital Trust, and also in Bradford. There's also wider things on research and development grants, leadership training, mentoring, doctoral training support, and that's kind of moving at pace over the next few weeks, being developed with local authorities and universities in a kind of a collaborative spirit, to get this co-designed and reflect the needs of what West Yorkshire would be able to do. Over the next 8 weeks, the next steps really are to finalise these interventions, get them signed off by political leaders, the universities, who are required to co-sign the proposals, and we'll have something in a bit more shape by the end of August, hopefully, to test with the Levelling Up Department. We'll then kind of look at consulting a bit further with businesses to make sure that they're happy with what we've put forward. So we've had a series of workshops in the last few weeks. So it's basically taking it back and saying, you know, based on what we've had discussed last time, what do you think? How is it looking? Is there any gaps? And then the next phase after that is looking at delivery, kind of models for this investment zone. And then the government are very keen for us to get this up and running Q1 2024. So a lot to digest there. It's a moving beast, but I'm happy to take any questions.
Any questions or comments from members? Mandy?
Hi. Great report, Mitchell. I know it's a very rapidly moving beast, this. But one of the things you mentioned is accelerator programs, and there are a lot of accelerator programs around, and they're not always able to find cohorts to go onto them. If we design an accelerator program, can we maybe think about what it's targeting, if that is what we decide to do? Because I think startup businesses, I can't find enough of them for the accelerator programs that I promote. So maybe that's not where the issue is. Maybe it's in accelerating team leadership within businesses, for example, with young leaders moving onwards, something like that. I don't know, but I think we need to think about it carefully if that is one of our options.
Yeah, no, absolutely, thank you. And I think as we develop these interventions over the next few weeks, we need to look at making sure that we don't duplicate existing activity, kind of look at the need and the demand. So the government expects us to put quite a lot of kind of a case forward about, you know, the outcomes, the outputs and objectives, and why we use investment zone money for this. So I think all those points are taken on board, definitely.
Yeah, I mean, it would be better to design Barclays Eagle Labs or UK Space Agency accelerator programs into our program where we're using their money to promote into our region than designing our own.
Are you okay? Any more? So you had your hand up?
Yes, and as you know, Mitch, we're part of the investment zone partnership at the University of Huddersfield and also the Thrane Buckley Innovation Centre. So this is a really, really exciting development for us all. I just wanted to underline that. I've been working with the architects over the last couple of weeks that are designing the floor plan for the second building going onto that campus. You know, we're designing a health innovation centre to go in there. So this programme is really, really timely. It will allow us to really accelerate the growth and attraction of companies to that site. So whether they be inward investment opportunities, and we know already that the West Yorkshire team is sending through many more of those health-related companies to us who want to talk to our academics, etc. So that's a really good sign that there will be interest and demand there. And we also think it'll be great for existing businesses, so a bit like Paxman Coolers, that obviously Rich Paxman's involved in this committee, that have got scope to work much more intensively with their local universities and fast forward their developments, KTPs, all those kind of good things. So I just really want to support and encourage everybody to get behind this initiative. It will really transform the areas, particularly where, you know, for example, in Huddersfield, it could really benefit from a lot of higher level jobs, and this can act as a magnet for that. Thanks, Chair.
Yes, thanks. So more of a comment than a question, but I think the point is that the Health Innovation Centre in Huddersfield, that's in development, will be a massive boost for West Yorkshire. It's going to be a world-class facility, and it will actually make sure that, you know, we actually address the sort of issue that we're facing. But if you want to add anything, Mitchell, you can do.
There's nothing really else to add. I think what Sue said there is absolutely right. It's a real timely opportunity to kind of maximise the opportunities of all the regional assets, the businesses, whether they're start-up, scale-up, and kind of build on that kind of cluster of knowledge and expertise that we've got in the region. This is the right opportunity to do that, and we'll see the rewards hopefully over the next 5 years as things develop.
Any more questions or comments from anybody? Oh, Farah, sorry.
Yeah, I mean, one of the things that was identified in the manufacturing task force was a shortage of building space, manufacturing space. Are there any plans for any sites to be developed for manufacturing purposes?
So we're still in the process of developing a lot of the interventions, and some of them can't be shared necessarily just yet. But I think that kind of digital manufacturing and elements that link to kind of the health tech cluster are kind of opportunities where we could look at that as that develops.
Any more? No. Sarah?
Just to build on that, going back to the economic strategy, the areas of focus that fall out of the economic strategy, that's exactly the type of thing we want to be looking at through that. So yeah.
Okay, thank you very much. I can't see anybody else putting their hands up. We'll move on to, well, this item is for noting, so I think we've noted it. We had a good exchange of views. Thank you for that. Next item is the Fair Work Charter. James, good to see you. We've been working on this for some time because it was previously the inclusivity panel, and we had the inclusive framework, and we were a bit worried that this will, and not just this, but other pieces of work that we were building within the inclusive framework would fall off the edges. But I was really pleased that when Tracy became the Mayor of West Yorkshire, you were one of the key pledges to actually develop a Fair Work Charter, and the report will represent the progress which has been made so far after the public consultation last year. The charter has been further shaped by our key partners and small businesses, and also it will be launched in the autumn, I believe, everything going to plan. It's well supported, and it's an opportunity to make sure that working conditions, not just in Yorkshire but far afield as well, improve for all our residents. So James, without further ado, can I ask you to provide us an update, and then we'll have a conversation. Thanks.
Great, thanks a lot, Chair. So this report, as you quite rightly say, provides a bit of an update since the Charter was last discussed in this committee in March last year. Doesn't time fly? And so some of the key highlights within what's a fairly substantial report are as follows. So at the time when we last met, we were very heavily into consultation mode and testing a very broad range of views on a draft charter, which had been co-designed by the Mayor's Expert Steering Group, and that steering group's fully listed in the report. And everybody may recall that process included the usual online consultation, but also some workshops, including with businesses, chambers, communities, and actually one for all the private sector members of the CA committees. The results showed, first of all, something really positive, that there was great support for the idea of the Charter, which was really welcome. But it also indicated something a bit more troubling, that actually when we consulted with the smallest of businesses, they found it incredibly difficult to sign up, not even just on day one, but probably in year one or year two. It would have been very challenging for them to comply with all the requirements. So we went into a period through the steering group of some deeper engagement, specifically with small businesses. And that was undertaken with some really practical and welcome help from our business representative organisation. So Barney's not here, is really instrumental in that, the chambers and also the CBI. So they brought through their networks a whole series, about 30 odd small businesses who are listed, or at least the logos are listed in the report. As a result of that deep dive engagement, the steering group recommended some important changes of emphasis to the Charter. So these changes are fairly key, really, compared with many other charters that were out there. So it's moving from what was essentially a really select and exclusive club to a much more inclusive community of all sorts of different types of businesses, from a process of heavy compliance to getting small businesses and other types of employers into the tent, and them embarking on much more of a journey of improvement and recognition. And there was something about the tone which jarred actually with a lot of consultees. So we've shifted that tone from, which was a bit more kind of around judgment, to a spirit of development and support. So the finalised charter as it stands is included within the report in the annex, and probably it's worthwhile flagging as well, one of the key questions that we often come back to is why should anybody bother signing up to it? So businesses told us there were 4 key reasons for signing up. It provides them with a toolkit and a pathway towards fair work. It helps them to recruit and retain good staff. It boosts the business performance because providing fair work is great for profitability, sales and growth, and it reaps community-based benefits. So developing a business community and creating peer group support and learning is really, really important as a benefit to the people that enrol. So we hope on that basis, more than hope, we've got a real strong ambition around signing up a minimum of 180 businesses onto the charter over the next 12 months, but including within that 180, 30 early adopters, which is part of the reason for the report today, because of which we hope some will be SMEs and private sector representative organisations around this table. But we really want those early adopters to cover a range of sectors, sizes and districts and different characteristics, so we can really then use them as ambassadors to communicate more broadly with the business population. So I'll pause there and ask if Sarah wants to add anything at this point around delivery arrangements. If not, then happy to answer any questions or through or from the chair.
Thanks, James. Sarah, do you want to add in?
Thank you. So yeah, we're just starting to work in implementation, how we're going to actually deliver this, and we're going to commission an external organisation to help us deliver this for year 1, because this is very new territory. So we're going to test out, see how it goes, evaluate, and then build on that for the kind of future and make sure this is sustainable, works for everybody going forwards. So this is the start of a journey for us actually. But just building on James's point, it'd be really great to get some feedback in terms of anybody who wants to be an early adopter, get signed up to this, but also any feedback and any concerns anybody might have at this stage that we can flush out before we get into actual implementation. That'd be really helpful.
Thank you very much. Sue, you got
Yes, Vice Chair. My question is, if you sign up, what do you need to do as an SME or a small or a large organisation? What's the method?
At this stage, it's a simple, not quite rough and ready, but it's an online form which you go through, and it's done on a self-assessment basis. So you fill that in, send it in to us, and then we take it from there.
Thank you. Alan?
Yeah, what's happening in other parts of the country in relation to this, and what success are they seeing?
Yeah, it's a really, really important question, because when we started out on this journey, as the chair mentioned, quite some time ago, there were quite a few new charters emerging with tons of optimism, and those included charters in Greater Manchester and London. And I think where they've had success has generally been with some of the larger employers within their areas. But I think probably if you look at who they've actually signed up, they probably struggled more with SMEs and engaging SMEs. We've had discussions with London, for example, in terms of what they're trying to do, and they're almost trying to retrofit a new charter that's relevant to SMEs, because the one that they're working with at the moment is just too complicated for smaller businesses to engage with. So there's that. I think there's also the learning that we've had from the if you like, the private sector side of the charter world. You've got B Corps, but there's also something which was launched a year or two ago by Julian Richer, the Good Business Charter, and that's very much a big open door, and we've taken a lot of learning from that, partly through our discussions with the FSB, because they partnered up with Julian Richer to design the Charter for SME Access.
Thank you very much, Mandy.
It's only a minor thing, and it might be a personal thing, but is it possible to change the word staff to people or employees? It always sounds very hierarchical, and I think that's, if we're talking about fair work, that's one of the things we're trying to sort of diminish, not make more prevalent.
Yes, thank you for that point. It's really, really well received. I think it's partly a byproduct of how the charter's come into being. There's been a clashing of worlds, really. So we've had the business rep organisations around the table, but also the unions as well, and that's something that I probably should have mentioned. This has been a great piece of work in terms of co-design, from people coming at it from different perspectives, but also using completely different types of language. So maybe workers as opposed to employees. But yeah, thank you.
Any more questions or comments? Can't see anybody. Okay, thank you very much for that excellent report, James and Sarah, for your input. So we're asking the committee to seek in-principle commitment of private sector members to be amongst the charter with early adopters. So that's what we're agreeing to. Item 11, development and delivery. The Evolve Growth Service is now in delivery from April 2023 and aims to make navigation of support for businesses easier. Sitting underneath this are a number of services that provide bespoke services including sustainability, productivity, digital transformation and enterprise. In development are several services that support businesses with skills, needs and those in the creative and cultural sector. The paper that's in front of you will outline the progress made on each of these services. We've got Louise Allen. Hi Louise, who will take us through the paper and we'll then have a conversation feedback. Thanks. Over to you, Louise.
Thank you, Chair. As Chair said, the paper gives an overview of business support services in delivery and also in the pipeline. The committee will be aware that the Evolve Growth Service began in April, and that aims to be the infrastructure to enable businesses to easily access the right support at the right time. And also, as Chair said, there's a number of services that have launched recently or are due to launch imminently, including support for high growth enterprise, sustainability, innovation and digital support. And the business productivity programme that Farah mentioned earlier is in delivery, and that is particularly attractive to manufacturers, as Farah alluded to. We have the digital skills, green skills and skill support for business, which has recently been approved at the combined authority, and this committee will be invited to input into the co-design of that programme. The business and skill support for creative industries will be presented at the combined authority tomorrow, and again this committee will be updated on progress and invited to input into that. The UK Shared Prosperity Fund appraisal process for innovation, export and alternative business models is ongoing, and this committee will be cited on the recommended proposals to take forward. And I would just like to draw your attention to a few pieces of activity in the innovation sphere. So please add the West Yorkshire Innovation Festival to your diaries, which is the 13th to the 17th of November. And we'd really appreciate to promote this to colleagues and partners to come forward with event ideas. We really want to raise the profile of innovation in the region, and the web address for signing up to deliver an event is in the report. The Mayor's Innovation Prize pilot completed earlier this year, and 10 young people won prizes to bring their ideas to life, which included mentoring support through Innovate UK and the Mayor's Innovation Challenge, which will be launched towards the end of the year, will build on this. And we are bringing the Innovate UK local action plan to life, and Mandy's been heavily involved in these conversations and can give more detailed updates on that piece of work, but in the meantime I'm happy to answer any questions or take any comments.
Thank you very much for that report. Any questions or comments from anybody? Sue?
Thank you, Chair. So just a couple of things. On page 119, under the access to finance section, it mentions in paragraph 215 that that the Northern Gritstone is all about spin-outs from universities of Leeds, Manchester and Sheffield, which is kind of true in its original sense. But I just wanted to flag the conversation we had a couple of meetings ago here, that the investment going in from the combined authority is meant to encourage spin-outs from all our universities, not just Leeds in our region. So I just wondered if that could be emphasised a little bit more to make sure that, you know, all the other universities are sort of bought into that approach, to make sure, because we have possibly a more diverse population in the more, well, universities like Huddersfield anyway, so to make sure all our students get the benefit of that, and our graduates, that will be, I think, something to keep emphasising. And then the second question I had was about the Creative Industries programme, which looked really exciting. And I just thought I'd mention some work that we've been doing with Kirklees Council, actually, in terms of piloting a makerspace within the university's Barbara Hepworth building to encourage students, graduates and local people who are interested in fashion design, textiles, those kind of creative businesses and freelance opportunities where they need facilities that they may not have around their kitchen table. And so in its pilot phase, it's been really successful, and that's coming to an end now. And I was just wondering if in future versions and future phases of the Creative Industries packages of support, that support for makerspaces might be something to consider, because it's a very practical area that can help particularly early stage entrepreneurs who don't have a lot of money, and they need those kind of facilities which can be put together fairly easily where there are other similar facilities around them. So I just, you know, I accept that it's not part of this initial phase, but it would be a really good element for future ones, and I'm sure there'll be other places around the region which, you know, might have similar potential to do the same kind of thing. Thank you.
Thanks, Sue. Mandy?
I'd like to support Sue's suggestion there, because I think that makerspace is a fantastic way to create innovation and potentially new businesses, which is one of the measures that we have in terms of how vibrant the region is. So I think that would be really good. I think in terms of Louise's report, the West Yorkshire Innovation Network, which I chair with the help of all the team here, is a fantastic group that Sue is on as well. We're just redesigning that, but it brings together all of the actors of innovation in the region and more nationally, as well as a number of other groups. We're just redesigning that, so if anybody has any views on what that should include, we'd be very welcome to listen to those and try and include it. We're definitely trying to increase our diversity at the moment, so it's something that we've talked about a lot here today, and we're trying to reflect within that team too. But innovation is absolutely essential to economic growth, and diversity is essential to innovation. So any things that we can do to increase innovation, as Sue's mentioned, have to be first and foremost on our agenda. The memorandum of understanding that was signed between Indro Mukherjee from Innovate UK and Tracy, I think was last February. We need to get data together to reflect what we've achieved, and that's something that we're driving at the moment. But any help that anybody has around the table in terms of measurements of innovation, then we're all ears on that, because I think that's a dashboard that we have that can give us a ground zero picture, and what we're achieving is essential to getting more of the same, and making sure we get value for money from all of the national initiatives that they are. It's important that we get a measure on West Yorkshire getting its fair share of those, and it's something I'm very keen to promote. In terms of the West Yorkshire Innovation Festival that Louise mentioned, the more help we can get from people here to promote that and to encourage people to either run events or go to events is something around making West Yorkshire the place to innovate. And I think some of the claims that we have for the region, so for example, Bradford University is currently the place that is training the most postgraduate students in AI in the country. All of those claims, if we haven't got them together, we need to get them together, because that has to be part of our tagline for why West Yorkshire is the place to innovate. So I think that's really important. And I know Sue will have some for Huddersfield too. But there's all the other universities. And that's why it's important within the Northern Gritstone Fund that we make sure that we pick up every university, not just the Russell groups.
Thank you very much. Do you want to come back on that, Louise? Or?
Just thank you for the comments.
Yeah, really appreciated the feedback and the comments. Any more questions or comments from members? No? Was that hand or a Sue? Was that hand? Was it just... Right, okay, thank you very much, members. that brings us to the end of the meeting. Just item 12, date and time of next meeting on Wednesday the 1st of November at 2 p.m. So that should be in your diaries. Okay. That's the end of the meeting. Thank you very much for your attendance, and have a lovely evening, whatever you're doing. Thank you very much.
Chair.